Are you ready to bring the stylish, action-packed world of Spider-Verse into your own 3D projects? In this tutorial, I'll show you step by step how to achieve the iconic look of Spider-Verse using Blender. From stylized materials to comic book-inspired compositing, I've got you covered. The visual style of Spider-Verse is iconic, and I have tried my best to break down the main elements of this style. Stylized material, Spider-Verse style animation, compositing, comic book lines. If you combine these, you should end up with some very cool results, and we'll start with the first one, stylized materials. Into the Spider-Verse uses very cool stylized materials, and this is actually surprisingly simple to achieve inside Blender. Change the render engine to Eevee, then add a new material to your 3D model. Add a principled BSDF node and plug that into a shader to RGB node. From there add a color ramp and a mix RGB node. Change the mode from linear to constant. Change the black on the color ramp to gray and slide the white more to the left. Then plug it into the mix RGB node and change the mode to multiply. From there you can add any texture you'd like, and now you have a simple cartoon shader in Blender. Next up is animation. Spider-Verse often animates their characters on twos, which means that the characters only move on every other frame. To achieve this effect, open a new window and change it to Graph Editor. Select your keyframe value and go into modifiers to add a stepped interpolation modifier. Now your animation should look something like this. For characters that move with the camera, I would not recommend using this effect on the position keyframes, as it could end up looking a bit choppy. Now for the compositing. This is a key element in achieving the Spider-Verse look, and you could go far and beyond on this. However, I will show you some simple things you can do to get a cool Spider-Verse-like look on your renders. Spider-Verse does not have traditional depth of field in the movie, however there is chromatic aberration on things far away. To get this look in Blender, go to Layers and enable Mist Pass. Then in the Compositing tab, add a Mix node, plug the image into both and plug the Mist Pass into the Factor. From there add to Mix nodes and change them both to Screen. Then add a color ramp and displacement for each of the Mix nodes. Change the factor to 9 and -9 and change the two color ramps to something like light blue and purple. Now you should have chromatic aberration in the background. You can change how much you want by adding a color ramp to the Mist Pass and change the values. The next thing we will be adding is bend day dots around light sources. Again, add a mix node and plug the image output into both. Then add a glare node to the bottom input and change it to fog glow. Use any dotted texture as the factor, and now you should see this cool effect around light sources. As mentioned, there are a lot more things you could do to achieve an even more truthful Spider-Verse style, but I will only cover these basic things in this tutorial. Now for the final step, comic book lines. Into the Spider-Verse uses really cool hand-drawn lines to emphasize the comic book aesthetic. There are a couple of ways to do this inside Blender. The easiest way to achieve a similar effect to this is to enable freestyle. This will add outlines around your characters. The problem with this is that there is not much control, and everything will have an outline which is not that faithful to the original style of Into the Spider-Verse. Another way to add hand-drawn comic lines is to use the grease pencil. This is a very powerful tool in Blender and can make some very cool hand-drawn lines in your renders. I will not be going into detail about the grease pencil in this tutorial, but let me know if you want a dedicated tutorial about how to use the grease pencil in Blender. That is it for this tutorial on how to achieve the Spider-Verse look in Blender. If you found this tutorial helpful, I would very much appreciate a like. I will see you in the next tutorial. Have a good one.